So unlike my playthrough of Final Fantasy X HD Remaster, breaking out the old PlayStation 2 and going back to play Final Fantasy XII did not nearly go as well as I was hoping. I don't even remember how many hours I put into this game. It might have been 20, but I completely burned out on the game before I even really got anywhere. And the thing is, I do love Final Fantasy XII. Everything from the setting, the characters, the world, the lore, the story, it's all wonderful. What kills it for me, though, is the combat system, the leveling, the mechanical progression, all of that. The game feels insanely grindy, and the combat is slow and plodding, and I don't feel like I have proper control over what my characters are doing. And I don't feel like my characters are unique from one another in any noticeable way that makes me feel like, well, I need to use this character for this thing and this character for this thing. It all just feels bad. Bad enough that I ended up quitting the game before I really got deep into the story, into a story that I enjoy, with characters that I enjoy. The combat system and the leveling, it's that bad to me. The example that I always use is, you go through a dungeon. And for me, in that game, I would maybe go through a dungeon 3 or 4 times. Just to, bolster stats, get a good chain going, maybe, get some levels, find some items. And then you go to the boss of that dungeon, and the boss wipes you completely. You just get thoroughly thrashed, and you have no idea why. You don't know, well, what do I need? Do I have to get some sort of weapon? Do I just need to level up more? Is there something that I missed? So you go through the dungeon some more, and you level up more, and you go through the boss again, and you just barely beat him, but you don't really know what's changed at all. Was it just that you leveled up more? And I hate that. I hate that feeling. It isn't like anything else that I played where, Final Fantasy X or even Persona 4 or Bravely Default, where all I had to do was go through a dungeon once, maybe twice. But that was always enough to win. With Final Fantasy XII, though, I feel like I had to spend way longer in dungeons than I really needed to just to prepare for a single boss fight. And the long stretches of land between points and having to deal with encounters, the slow combat, it eventually just got me to the point where I just didn't want to play this game anymore. And I'd heard that this is a game that is probably going to get some sort of re-release at some point. And with that, I also heard that if they did do that, they might use the European port, which apparently it is way better than the first port that we got here during the first release of 12. And the good thing about that, I'd heard, is it smooths out the combat a little bit more and lets you kind of fast forward through it. And that's something that I do hope for. Because, again, Final Fantasy XII, it is a great game. Just the combat kills it for me. And that would be fine if there wasn't a lot of combat, or they made the combat a lot more convenient to not put so much stock in, but it is such a combat-heavy game that it just kills it for me. And I can't play that game until that's improved. And hopefully until we get an HD remaster of that one, that's probably how my opinion's going to stay on 12. I'm Brian CrowMnOn for a CrowMnOn review, and we'll see you next time.